Hope you can hear me clearly. All right. Hope you can hear me clear. So we are going to be looking at on the first one. Let me just quickly remove these things that we are having here, which is the order block. All right. Liquidity, and then the other one is what we call the FVG. Order block, liquidity graph, and FVG area. All right. So these are the things I normally make use of. All right. These are the things I normally make use of. First of all, as I said, the order block area, the liquidity area, and the FVG area. Now, I do make use of all these sometimes if I want to take in a trade. Either I spot out an FVG area, as I said earlier before, or I spot out an order block area, as I said. But mind you, we have to say liquidity. Yeah, liquidity have to be close to our entry point, because if liquidity is not close to your entry point is can likely be used as liquidity. So first of all, let me just use it in this case. Let me just say we are having a structural movement to the upside. As I said earlier before, we have to follow the structure of the market no matter what you are doing here, because it's carrying over 90% of what is going on there. All right, so we are having a structural movement to the upside. We're having a pull and a retracement here and a pull to the upside. So if you meet the market in this particular case, you already know that here is your break of structure level. As I said earlier before, this other part here is a break of structure level also. Let me just clearly identify this. And if we are trying to make use of the FVG or either the other block there, meaning that we have to start selling the market, start pulling all the way to the downside. And as I said, we have to spot out an FVG area below these areas, any points below either an FVG or an order block. But if you see FVG and order block close to each other, then you make use of order block zone. And remember, I also make use of confluences like the Fibonacci retracement, because if I decided to trigger it from this way to this particular point, I would like to find out this 0.7 if it's lying around the other block zone or the FVG area for more confirmation there. Right? If I notice that the other block zone is around this point here, or the FVG area is lying around this point, which is the 0.7 level, then any entry point or any scenario whereby I'm seeing around the 0.6 is not going to likely be my point of interest. Or instead, I'll be taking that point of interest around the 0.7 area, because it's colliding with the what? The either an FVG, as I said earlier before, or an order block as a two confirmation there, the Fibonacci confirmation and the order block or the FVG confirmation. Now, what you have to understand in this scenario, all right, is that if you are checking around the 0.5 level there, as I say, liquidity is always hanging around the 0.5 level. All right, we are going to be checking out on the live chart, because as I say, the order block, the FVG, and the what? Liquidity there. So let me just quickly go to a live chart. Now, if you check clearly here, order block is the last point whereby the break of structure happen, which is the massive movement. Because if you check clearly, you are going to see a what? A bearish candlestick before an impulsive movement to the upside. That can serve as an order block area. I'm just trying to make it very, very clear in a layman's understanding. So if you check clearly from this particular movement here, we have this particular last candlestick. All right, let me just quickly make it fast. All right, so if you check clearly, what can I call this? I can easily call this point here a break of structure, right? I can easily spot this out. I'm just using the current movement so that you can understand. I'm using the current movement here. All right, we just have here as a break of structure level. Let me just quickly mark this out. BOS level here. Now, if you look at that point, as I said, we have a BOS level, and I told you about an order block. It can be the last bearish candle there before a bullish engulf candlestick trigger all the way to the upside. All right. If you check clearly here, let me just quickly use these tools. If you check clearly around this area here, if you check clearly, we have a last bearish candle before a bullish candle came up there. Look at that area I spotted out. That can serve as an order block on that zone before the break of structure happen. Alright, so this points here is an order block area. Are you getting the point? And if you check clearly here, we have an FVG area, this other points here, which is that gap. Now, I've not talked about FVG. I don't know if you truly know what is FVG, but FVG is a space whereby the market fails to retrace from, or the market fails to trigger in. Because if you check clearly here, we would have seen the markets with this wick pull all the way to the downside here, cover this candlestick perfectly before moving to the upside. But if you check clearly, it's hung around this point and starts pulling all the way back to the upside. So that level there is an FVG. So what I want you to do is that just go to your normal chart, try to spot out FVG. Alright, that is how you learn. Try to spot out FVG area. If you check clearly here, we also have that same FVG around this point. We also have this other FVG around this point. That is why you can easily find FVG in the market. But what makes you capable is to understand the right FVG to take trade from. Are you getting the point? All right. Hope you are following. And I told you that any FVG you see close to your order block, it will be better for you to pick the order block zone. If you check clearly here, this is an FVG and the market pull all the way to the downside and push and close inside this FVG with a wick and pull up from there the first time. But if you see it, the market pushed down to this other block here and then decided to ride all the way to the upside. All right, as simple as that. Because if you check clearly here, if we decided to use our fib retracement in this particular case and align it from the low to the high. All right, let me just quickly make it. Remember, I told you fib retracement is going to give you more confirmation or more confluences of where to take trade from. Now, this is the high here. If you check clearly here, the fib retracement is kind of telling you to start looking out for opportunity around the 0.7 area, which is at that other block zone. If you check clearly here, this is an order block area here, which is around lying around the 0.7 area. If you notice, the market pulled all the way down to that 0.7 area because that is where I normally look out for opportunities. Anywhere below the 0.6 is my major opportunity. So what I have to watch out for below the 0.6 is either I spot out an FVG area or an order block area for the next pull to the upside. So anything that is happening around the 0.5 level is liquidity. All right, if you check clearly here, we have this point here as a liquidity zone. All right, any movement, as far as the market has not gives you a proper retracement below the 0.6 there, any movement that's going on there is a liquidity point. All right, anyone here. Let me just quickly make it fast using the fib retracement. All right, let me just say I mark out this level here. If you check clearly there, the market gives a false retracement, all right, which was this one. All right, which was this particular retracement that you are seeing all the way to the downside and fails to push down below and close at this point and decided to give you a new point to the upside a little bit there. So this point here is a liquidity. Yes, are you getting the point? So any movement that is happening above the 0.5 level or around the 0.5 level there is majorly liquidity. We don't take trade around that point. We majorly take trade below the 0.6. Anywhere below the 0.6 is where we majorly take our entry point from. So anything that is happening around the 0.5 or above the 0.5 level are liquidity. It's a sign of that the market is going to grab people that is going on an entry point from there. Hope you are getting the point. People that is trying to go in on an entry point from there. So you always find other block after the market has gives you a break of structure to the upside there. Then the possible retracement is that the market can likely approach either an order block zone or an FVG area. Now let's quickly go to this particular movement that we are having here. If you check clearly here, what are we seeing here? Also, a break of structure to the upside. Make it simple. Don't always force the market. You have to watch out for few concepts here. And what is here? You can see this gap, the market fails to push down here. All right, let me just quickly make use of it using this. The market fails to push down here and cover this candlestick perfectly. If you check clearly, all these movements, all these tiny, tiny one, you can see that the wick is covering the candle. All right, it's covering the candle perfectly around this point, but here it fails to cover that candle perfectly the way it's doing to all this particular tiny movement you are seeing here, and decided to what, stock out here and push up. Then it has created what I said, FVG. All right, from here we have an FVG point. All right, and I told you earlier that the market can easily what, react on an FVG area. If you don't understand this FVG very, very well, you can notify me after this. All right, if you don't understand it, but if you understand it, try as much as possible to spot them out and send to me privately. I'm going to check if it's correct or not. That is how you learn. As I said earlier before, we have an FVG around this point, but mind you, we are not going in there. That FVG does not concern us. Any FVG that we are looking at for has to be below. All right. So if you check clearly here, we have this what, order block, as I said here, a bearish candlestick, and then the next bullish candlestick that is going to come up that causes the break of structure there is going to be our order block zone. And what I seen there, do you have any FVG close to our order block? No. All right, no FVG close to our order block. So we are only going to be making use of this order block below here. So as a trader, what you want to see is that you want to start highlighting using your fib retracement. If the market start giving you a possible pull to the downside, but for now, it has not started giving that because a break of structure just occurred to the upside. So if you start seeing the market making a certain movement like this, let me just quickly spot that out. If you start seeing the market making a certain pull like this, that is when you can easily make use of your break of structure. And as I told you earlier before, liquidity is going to be coming there, all right, around the zero point 0.5 here. Anything that is happening above up here is a liquidity point here. All right. As far as the market has not pushed down below the zero point 0.5 there, any movement that is happening there is a liquidity. So we already have this order block stuck out. And if you check clearly, is the market spot it out using the fib settings, fib retracement levels there. I told you earlier around the 0.7 level is my major area. And if you check clearly, it's already aligning with that other block there. Why can't we find this other block there at this spot? Why do we find this other block at this 0.7 level? All right, so you just have to understand this. Let's you understand where your other block needs to be most time. The market is what is going to play that out for you. All right, so the fib retracement is going to give you an edge where to be looking at for your next possible entry. All right, it's going to be giving you an edge. And I told you earlier that you are going to be looking at for the next possible entry anywhere below the zero point 0.6 area. So I will be expecting this market to start pulling all the way to the downside to this zone here, possibly before I can start looking out for any form of opportunity for the next possible buy that we hold from there. As simple as possible. As simple as that is why I always say be patient. All right, you have to be patient most times. All right, you have to be patient. And as I said, liquidity is always close to your zone. All right, liquidity is close here. Any liquidity that you're having is stocked out around the zero point 0.5 level. That is why you have to be using fib retracement very, very well to know where liquidity is lying on. Are you getting the point? So just spot out all those things, spot out your liquidity level, send those things for me for more clarification or for more confirmation here. All right, so let's me see what the market did earlier around here. To check clearly here, this market is just been bullish there. All right, we have just been bullish, having series of break of structure, a pullback, break of structure, all the way to the upside there. All right, so this is how to clearly look out for those other block zone, FVG area, liquidity there. All right, that is just how to clearly look out for. As I said earlier, if you have any question, you can do it to ask. I don't want to make it to be more long so that you can easily spot it out on your own chart and send it to me for clarification. All right. Remember, we just talk about liquidity zone. We just talk about other block area. We just talk about FVG area, fair value gap. All right. Fair value gap, as I said, they are always in the market, but you just have to find out the one that the market can likely react to. Again, depending on the structural movement that you're having there. All right. So that's just exactly how to look at for most of those stuff there.